Hi, I'm Jim Aikin, and I'm here to tell you a little bit about the modular synthesizer that you see sitting back here. I've just written a little piece for Keyboard Magazine on the process of acquiring a modular synthesizer, and they asked me if I'd do a little bit of video, so here we are. I'm doing the video. There are a number of things that you might like to know about this instrument. It would take days or possibly weeks to explain everything about it, and I don't know that you'd want to sit through that much video, so I'm going to try to compress things and just kind of hit the high spots here a little bit. The first thing that I think you probably may or may not know is that modular synthesizers, although we tend to think of them as something that was kind of current in the 70s or the 60s or whatever, this is all new gear. This is all state-of-the-art synthesizer equipment being manufactured by small boutique manufacturers today. And it does pretty amazing stuff that, Bob Moog might have dreamed of, but there are some interesting concepts that have evolved in the last few years. Now, these modules, there's about a dozen different manufacturers represented in this system, which is, I would call this a middle-sized system. It's not a particularly huge system. I've seen photos of people's modular synthesizers that cover a wall. This is certainly not an entry-level system, but it's not cheap either. This is expensive equipment, and it requires a certain amount of thought as to what you're going to buy, because every modular system is your own creation in some way. There are, probably a couple of hundred modules that you could conceivably buy and add to your system, and it's up to you to decide what exactly you would like. Nobody specified this instrument for me. I did a lot of research and figured out what to do about it. Now, like the modular synthesizers of old, it's controlled by analog voltages, and we would, in order to make any sound with it, as I think you saw in the introductory clip there, we would have to patch a bunch of patch cords to the various jacks on the front panel. And maybe if I have time in this video, I'll do a little tiny bit of patching. But oddly enough, some of these modules behind the front panel, they're not analog at all, the way they would have been 30 years ago. Several of them are entirely digital, and they have like even a preset memory that will save a little bit of, this one here is a trigger riot that will save, that's what it's called. It will save 16 presets of the knobs. And this over here is a digital oscillator called Braids that has quite a lot of stuff in it. It's got FM, it's got physical modeling, it's got a little bit of granular synthesis. So there's some really sophisticated stuff going on in here. Now, what else would you like to know about it? I purchased all of this equipment from a place down in LA, in the LA area, called Analog Haven. They have a really good website, and Sean Cleary there has been very helpful. My own experience is all I can go by, but Sean has been very helpful with helping me to figure out what I wanted to buy and shipping it to me promptly and everything. So it seems to be a great resource. But there's no excuse for not doing your homework. I mean, before you buy anything of this sort, you would probably want to download the manual for each module and look at it and go, is this really what I want? So I think in the next section of this video, I'm going to give you a little bit of a close-up guided tour of the system that I have. It may or may not be like a system that you would want for yourself. And indeed, the music clip that I was playing might be a little too new age for you, but you might want to do something more rude. You can definitely go online and hear lots of modular synthesis clips that are extremely rude. So, and that's cool, but I'm an old guy, so I like pretty stuff sometimes. So I think I'm going to turn off the camera here, and I'm going to move it around a little bit, and then we'll do a quick walkthrough of the actual physical components of this system. Okay, this is a close-up. The first thing you might want to know is that there are actually 3 cabinets here. These are inexpensive plywood cabinets, relatively inexpensive, made by a German company called Döpfer, which Dieter Döpfer actually pioneered this particular concept in modular synthesis, and established a sort of a technical standard to which all of these different manufacturers adhere. And Doepfer is still very much in the business of building analog equipment. This is actually one of their modules right here. I'm not even going to try to explain what that does. It's a little bit tricky. Now, the way I've designed this system, on this side we have the audio components for the most part. Along the bottom I've got a row of oscillators. I've got, in the middle I've got some filters and a wave shaper over there. And along the top I've got, this is a VCA matrix. And then I've got an output module over here that does some panning, voltage control panning, and various other things. On this side are the control modules, and along the bottom here are a couple of step sequencers. And of course, step sequencers, if you're not familiar with modular synthesis, your association with them may be something like Tangerine Dream back in the 70s, but these are actually a little more sophisticated than what they were doing in those days. This one has a digital brain and quite a lot of smart things that you can do with it. This is called Renee. And this over here is a pressure points sequencer. These are both from a company called Make Noise, and they're very different from one another. Hiding in between them is a little module called a brain seed, which is a combination quantizer and step memory and sample and hold, which is a very strange module, but very cool. Moving upward, we have this thing called the Trigger Riot, which, as I said, is a digital module that sends gate signals in various manners, and it has 16 knobs, and you can set all sorts of things like the gate width and the rhythm for each row and each column of the Trigger Riot. So you can create arbitrarily complex rhythms with this thing. Over here we've got a pingable envelope generator, which it's kind of cool, but it's a little weird, and a perfectly ordinary ADSR with voltage control of the attack, decay, sustain, and release segments, and a couple of control voltage processors. Moving up here, we've got a couple more oscillators that I just didn't have room for over here. We've got the Mutable Instruments Braids, which is a digital oscillator, and the DPO from Make Noise, which is an all-analog dual oscillator that does some very complex and interesting things. And then we've got a couple of quantizers here, which are useful with the sequencers to make sure that you're playing in tune. And in fact, what you were hearing at the beginning of this video was the brain seed running through one of the quantizers. This is a logic module, which is useful for processing control signals. Up here we've got a couple of more envelope generators. This is a dual ADSR, and a couple of voltage sources that you can use for all sorts of things. These can be LFOs or lag generators or whatever you might want to have them do. And as you can see, there are a couple of holes here. There are things that I haven't yet acquired that I'm waiting for these two modules to come back into stock. And there may be a couple of further changes in this system as I go along. One of the things you have to know, you don't actually have to be an electrical genius in order to use this kind of instrument. Although there are people who buy do-it-yourself kits and they build modules. The company sells a kit and you haul out your soldering iron and put the thing together. I'm not equipped to do that kind of thing, but if you get into analog modular synthesis with this type of system, you will need to be able to plug in the modules to the power rail, which is down on the inside. And in fact, if you look here, you see there's a little ribbon. This is the power cable for this module here, and I had to plug it into that rail in order to provide power. And if you plug it in the wrong way around, upside down, smoke might start coming from your instrument. So you do have to be aware of the electrical issues. And as far as, voltages, you need to know whether it's 0 to 5 volts or 0 to 10 volts or -5 to +5 volts that is coming out of each jack and wants to go into each jack. So there's a little bit of technical knowledge that you do need to have. But the most interesting thing about this type of instrument, aside from the fact that it makes wonderful sounds and it can be used very intuitively just by grabbing patch cords and plugging things in and seeing what happens, There are happy accidents. You can have no idea what's going to happen when you turn the filter knob, and all of a sudden, wow, listen to that. I never would have thought of that sound. And then, of course, you have to record it somewhere, because once you change the patch, it will be gone forever. So that's why over here I have these cables that go over into my computer so that I can capture the audio from the system at any time. So that's a quick and easy introduction to Euro. This is called a Euro rack system. I don't think I mentioned that because the Deptford company is based in Europe, basically. And so I hope that has given you a little bit of an insight into what can happen with this kind of instrument.